You're there in front of that camera. We're live. I don't know if the dual stream works very well or not. But welcome to the 7 o'clock talk. And I got to hop over here to Instagram and hit go live.
We like that.
I was just trying something different. That way, yours is, they know you're Nurse Jessica. You're actually labeled. So, we're going to talk about autoimmune diseases. And so the first question about autoimmune diseases are, what are the causes of autoimmune diseases? And so, is there a genetic component? Well, yeah, there is a genetic component to autoimmune diseases because if you're not genetically predisposed to this, then technically you can't get it. And that's why you should know your genetics and know where your weaknesses are. But what does it really take to make an autoimmune disease happen? You have to have some sort of a trigger, right? And what do we normally see as triggers?
It can be anything.
What's the number one thing? Some traumatic type of event. So one of the things I want people to think about is autoimmune diseases generally develop, unless you are born with it, right? I mean, if you're born with type 1 diabetes, then you have an autoimmune issue to the islets of Langerhans inside the pancreas. But then you're born with it. But most people develop an autoimmune disease. And to Jessica's point, it develops and it becomes after a divorce, death of a family member or spouse, a mom or a dad.
For some, it can be a pet.
Yep, for some it can be a pet because people love their pets like people. She's one of them. And so when we look at that, it takes just that little bit of stress to break the system. And then what is an autoimmune disease? I mean, what defines an autoimmune disease? Do you know what defines an autoimmune disease? How do they define an autoimmune disease in regular medicine?
It's where your body starts attacking itself because it can't differentiate self from a foreign substance.
So what happens is, to her point, is the body can no longer differentiate what is benign from what is dangerous. And so the body starts to attack everything. And so some people, like I, get thyroid. I get Hashimoto's thyroiditis. My thyroid starts to go underactive. I develop antibodies depending on what I'm eating. Her mother developed lupus, which is another form of an autoimmune disease. And so these things all play together to cause the breakdown, to cause the body to start to attack itself. And so when that happens and the autoimmune disease starts, do you think you can possibly stop it? And what takes us from the realm of stopping damage to reversing damage? You usually say it's a order of how long somebody's had it. How long has the disease been present and working? And that's true. How long have you had whatever is going on in your body? Because then it starts to damage the organ systems. The sooner you get on these things, or the sooner that you pay attention to your body, the better off you are. And so you're born with the genetic component, But it takes something in the environment to actually trigger this. And this is what the research is showing more and more and more and more. So your genes leave you susceptible. But as I have said in other things, and as we have talked about in other ones, your genes are not your destiny. And that's why we talk about the environment so much. And what's one of the things that you can do to start to heal yourself or do as much reversal as you can for an autoimmune disease? Just give me a chance to look at my notes, make sure I'm covering everything.
We usually start with the gut, securing the gut.
Well, and then addressing triggers. And what's the most common trigger that we see? I'd say we probably have 3 most common triggers.
From autoimmune?
Yeah.
I mean, diet, stress, and genetic.
Traumatic event. Genetics, they're born with the genetics. And so when I look at this, and the other things that I want to kind of cover is when you're young and your immune system is sharp and it's not overreactive, you got to remember the standard American diet keeps your blood sugar very high. And when your blood sugar is very high, the body doesn't know if blood sugar is high because you're trying to flee from something, or if it's high because we have a crappy diet. But it still responds the same way because that is a stressor. So that causes cortisol to go up, and that causes insulin to go up. And that's why insulin is kind of seen as one of the root causes. But, it's not just so simple to get rid of insulin to reverse autoimmune diseases or to help autoimmune diseases. And so one of the things that I want people to realize is if you have an autoimmune disease, let's take thyroid, for instance. If you do a thyroid test, you have to look at more than just TSH. And what's the typical medical doctor look at when they're looking at a thyroid test?
TSH and T3, maybe.
Yeah. And you have to look at TPO and thyroglobulin antibodies. Because if those are present, you also have to remove those. And this is why we talk about an order to healing, because a lot of people can know what they have, and they can know how to reverse it. But if you don't take care of the foundation, of the basis, then it's going to come back, or you're not going to get it all. And that's why we start with a plan to work on, the hormones, and then the gut, and then we work on detox. And so as I talk about gut, I'm going to throw in the GI map. And so when we look at this, the number that I like to see is right here. You're looking at my personal one. My secretory IgA looks really good. My antiglidin IgA is getting a little high for my liking. But when I was taking this, I had lots of zonulin present. For me, that's a lot of zonulin. I'd started eating a little more bread. And zonulin breaks down secretory IgA. So this is something that we can actually look at, that we can measure. And if you have an autoimmune disease and you don't heal secretory IgA, guess what's going to come back and bite you in the butt again? So you'll feel good for a while, but then it's going to come back. And then there are things that you just have to address, like look at my pancreatic elastase. That means that my pancreatic enzymes are not produced enough to break down biofilms and stuff like that. So I have to make sure that I am on enzymes so that I can break down everything that happens in the body. But if you don't heal up this secretory IgA, if you're low, it's bad. If you're high, it's bad. It's always about balance. So that is why when we look at these things, that's why we test. Because if we don't know that the secretory IgA is there, then we don't know if you're actually set up to heal. And that's setting up the healing, because in almost every autoimmune case that they're studying now, they are seeing that people are not addressing the gut. They're not looking for small infections in there. They're not clearing those things out, and they're not bringing the secretory IgA level back up. I didn't have any sinus issues this year. I haven't sneezed as much as I normally sneeze. There's just a lot of things that monitoring these things helps with. And if you want to truly give your body every chance that it needs, then you've got to actually address that secretory IgA. And you've got to set the gut up and your foundation up so that you heal. But if you don't address the hormones, what happens?
If you don't address your hormones, you're not going to have any energy.
Your cell health's going to suck.
Yep. You can't, if you aren't making your hormones, you're not making lots of things for your adrenals, your thyroid, your sex hormones. So your stress levels are going to be high. Your energy is going to be low.
And stress, cortisol.
You're not going to be sleeping properly.
Yeah, I know. But your stress, that stress affects secretory IgA. So that's why you have to know what is going on there. You have to know if your body is feeling stress, and then you have to remove that. We can't tell you what that stress is for you. We don't know what's going on with you.
Some people can process a lot of stress before it affects them, and some people, the least little bit of stress sets them over the edge. So how do you deal with your stress level?
And so that's what we really are trying to get through to people is, number one, we always start with stress. We always look at that, and we always look at the body's response. And that's why we set the clinic up, so that if somebody is stressed out, they can now come in and get their IVs in a quiet, calm room. We're working with My Whole Kitchen. There is a change in the My Whole Kitchen schedule. It got moved from the 3rd to the 10th. But you can go up, sign up, pay for the class at My Whole Kitchen, and you start to control those blood sugar levels. And I will tell you, if you're a diabetic and you don't go through that class, you are absolutely doing yourself a disservice. And we have no part in that class other than to say it is a great class and a great place to start to reverse your diabetes, to help your health as much as possible. I'll put that up on the screen here. MyWholeKitchen.com. And either Jessica and or I will be in there with you guys on the 10th. I might show up at a different one. I don't know. It just all depends. We really believe in this, and it's education that will pay dividends, because you'll decrease your medications, you'll decrease your sugar intake, you'll decrease insulin, and you'll learn how to take care of yourself and why and what to use. And so, and that's part of stress. And that's why, like I was talking about, what else do we do in the clinic to make sure people are calm and it's muted?
So a couple years ago, we, at New Year's, really started thinking about how people feel when they walk in our front door. So we've reorganized it. The colors are muted. We have a water fountain. The lights are low. There's calming music. And now people actually come in and just want to sit there for a while before they leave. They really enjoy peacefulness. They describe it as being peaceful, inviting, calming.
And that's one of the main reasons why I use acupuncture with people in functional medicine is so that we can get people to quit being so reactive. And to Jess's point, she went through the whole clinic, and when people get foot baths, the lights can be off or on. There could be soft music in there. When people are in the back, if they're getting chiropractic care, the lights are off. There's soft music on. There's scenery on the monitors. All of that stuff matters.
Well, and the most flattering thing that can happen is the treatments are done and they are sound asleep.
Yeah. We have lots of people giggle because somebody 2 or 3 stations down is in their curtained off area and they are snoring away. And we take pride in that. And that's why we design that experience. And if you come into us and your organic acids are low, we can now offer IVs again. And this isn't us.
No, we actually are helping friends. So the IVs will be administered by Luke's Hydration Well, and they are new and currently in Scottsburg.
But they will be coming to the Jennings County Clinic to start with, and then probably might do some in the Columbus Clinic. The Columbus Clinic is more of a consultation, report of findings area, more so than physical treatment. So Luke's Hydration Well does the IVs. My Whole Kitchen does our education with sitting down with people. And if you're so busy that you can't do the classes and do that stuff, she'll make the meals for you.
They do food.
Yeah.
They don't do the education for us. She teaches them how to cook if they want to
Well,
to cook.
Teaches them how to cook and the reason behind the way that she cooks.
Yeah.
And then it dovetails beautifully in with what we teach about quality of food.
About the importance of non-GMOs, organically grown, simple
meals.
Well,
and think about it this way: when you're looking at factory farm food, let's just go there. Let's look at food that has been genetically modified. When they go in and they test these foods, go to the Environmental Working Group, go to EWG.org, and they will show you the dirty dozen. And these are the foods, the 12 most polluted foods. And think of it this way: if they have glyphosate on it, glyphosate is the most powerful antibiotic that is known to man right now. And you're eating it on your grapes. You're eating it on, I know grapes are one of the most toxic.
Strawberries.
Oh, yeah, strawberries. Strawberries are really toxic as well. Okay. And so you have to wash these foods. If you don't know your farmer, then don't trust the labels. Wash your food, because that will cause leaky gut. That will start the autoimmune disease.
Well, and make sure you're washing your food with something that's not adding more chemicals.
Yeah.
So use a actual organic fruit wash, or wash it with
I like Eat Cleaner.
A teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in the fresh water, and soak them and then rinse them well.
And unfortunately, this is the stage of the game that we're at. All of these little things matter because you have to care about these things, because if you don't, then you will continue a cycle that is killing you.
Well, and then also think about your water, because just because you're washing it with water doesn't mean you're washing it with clean water. And so there's an awful lot of contaminants and chemicals inside of the drinking water. So make sure that.
See, I don't even think about water anymore, because all the water that we eat and cook with is reverse osmosis water.
But that we are like the 1%. Like most people don't have that.
We're not 1%ers in income, but we are with water and food and everything
So make
else.
sure that you're at least, I mean, just be, think about what you're putting on your food. And if you're cooking with it, like make sure you have clean water to cook with, because just because it comes out of your tap doesn't make it clean.
Yeah, and you can go to the environmental working group on that one. I'll post the link here.
A lot of the drinking water is contaminated, so just be aware, and you might want to invest in a filter so that you can filter your water, so at least be getting some of this stuff out, so that you can not be adding to the problem.
We call it body burden. So you're not adding to the body burden, because we've talked about, go back and look at our other podcasts or YouTubes, because we've talked about water in those. And there are certain tricks, just the down and dirty. If you're using reverse osmosis water, you got to be using like a sea salt or some sort of remineralization, because if you don't have a nutrient-dense diet, then you can demineralize bone. And water is the universal solvent. So if you take it and you break it down to just H2O, it is now a solvent. And it will break stuff down slowly over time. Look at what natural water does when on a waterfall or whatever else. It breaks rocks down over time. So, and then last but not least, if you cover the bases with looking at your hormones and your stress, and you start to address, I call it the what if person or the can't let it go person. If you're one of those are the things that you have to start to get under control. And those are learned things. And you can read the Body Keeps Score. There's reams of information on how anger causes cancers in certain areas. And it's
Pent up anger that you carry over time.
Yeah. And that's why, forgiveness is a big thing. And you may not want to forgive somebody, but it's generally in your, it's for you. And then look at the GI map, like I was showing you. That last page on that is just how does the car have all of its components that it needs to work right. Not to mention the other 4 pages of, is the microbiome set up right? Do you have the right mix of bacteroides to firmicutes? There are ways to manipulate all of that. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we're here for, to help you. And then if you're getting your organic acids and we see that the mitochondria are damaged, or we see that you're really low in B vitamin, that's where we look to other providers to do what they do, which is Luke's Hydration Well, bringing in IVs. We used to do them. Insurance got crazy on that. The calming of people down, the using of acupuncture, the teaching people how to cook, the sending people to go get meditation and learn how to meditate or pray or whatever the case may be. It all works together to help you. And to help you be the best you can be, so that you show up for your family, and you can be the dad that you want to be, and you can be the mom that you want to be, and then you can also be the daughter and son and grandpa, because at the end of the day, Zig Ziglar said it best. You may not be the richest person in the world, But at the end of the day, we all end up in a pine box or an urn or on a card somewhere. And so it's not how many toys you died with, but what people remember you for. What kind of person were you? And when you just feel good, you can be your best. And that's what it's all about. Anything else you want to add to that? I think we hit pretty much everything. So we will see you next week. And the class for the cooking, my whole kitchen, spell it wrong, kitchen, starts June 10th. And so that is a great place to start. If you don't want to cook, she provides the meals. And that's where we want to be. That's where we want to go. And that's how we want to do. And we're here to help you. So if you have any questions, hit us up. And for now, have a good evening.